my colleague Brandi.
Hi, I'm Brandi Szymanzi. I'm the Rule Lending Manager with CIC.
Really happy to have you here today, Brandi, for this conversation. So, today we are going to be talking about how to obtain business funding without using personal credit. This question was sent in by a listener. So, thank you so much for asking this question. And when we talked about this question and how to approach our answer, there's really two different ways that we viewed this. And so I'm not sure what the initial intent is. So we're going to break it down in two different directions. So one is how do I secure business funding without taking out a personal loan? So, or the other option is how do I obtain business funding without like having my personal credit checked or signing a personal guarantee? Those are both important considerations when applying for business funding. So, the first way we want to talk about this is through why do lenders pull like your credit or require you to sign a personal guarantee? You are essentially your business. And especially when your business is new and you're starting out, you really have to, like, everything that you do is combined with your business. And so, a business lender is often looking at your credit. They are including your personal expenses in the decision because the business doesn't have enough track record to stand on its own for funding. What are you seeing, Brandi, like when you talk to businesses? Is this a question that you get often?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have concerns about their personal credit and how it's going to affect their ability to obtain financing.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about, I don't know if I mentioned personal guarantee. I have all my notes and I'm like, what have I said out loud versus what's in my head? So, a personal guarantee is a document that you often have to sign when you take out a business loan. Um, what a personal guarantee is, it is that you, the business owner, promise to repay the loan. So if the business can't repay the loan, then you are on the hook for repaying the loan. So this is very common in the business space. Occasionally, a lender may not require a personal guarantee, but it is pretty common. So it's something to be aware of. If someone is willing to lend you money, they expect to be repaid. And so if for some reason the business isn't able to repay, then you are responsible for repaying. So that's something to keep in mind. Someone's willing to take a risk on you, but they do need to get their money back. And so they're also looking at the different ways that they can get that money back. So that's what a personal guarantee is. So it's important that if you are applying for funding for your business, that you do understand what is on the line. If you're not willing to use your assets to secure the loan, or you don't want something like that to happen. If the business isn't able to repay, it's important that you don't take out that loan, right? Or that you make sure that that loan is repaid as agreed so that you don't have any negative consequences in your personal life as a result of that loan not performing as expected. So, the flip side of this is what type of funding is available without using personal credit. So a lot of businesses start by using personal funding, using credit cards, taking out personal loans, and not everyone wants to do that, right? And so what options can we take out without, what options are available for businesses starting out? Brandi, what are you seeing in the marketplace?
Most newer businesses are going to start with personal savings to launch their business if they're not wanting to seek funding elsewhere. There are some crowdfunding options in the community that people can use for startup purposes when they're initially getting going. One example of that is Kiva. So the best way to describe it is it's kind of like a GoFundMe, but you have to pay it back. So you are utilizing your own community in the first phase of funding, and it's social underwriting, really. It's saying that people that you know believe in your idea and trust you are going to contribute to that loan. And then it moves to the second phase of funding, and it opens up to the global Kiva network, and anybody in that network can contribute to your loan to reach, I believe, $10,000 to $15,000 at 0% interest.
Yeah, Kiva is a really great option. So CIC is the the Kiva hub for Southern Arizona. So if you do want to learn more about this, you can reach out to CIC or you can just go to kiva.org. It's a really great option for newer businesses. Another really important thing to keep in mind is relationships matter. They're really important. I'm sure you hear people talk about in the community like know your lender, build relationships, know your banker. And that's a lot harder to do these days because how we bank has changed. We do so much ourselves. There's a lot of self-service, so we don't have the same opportunities to build those relationships. We have to be a lot more intentional about that. So know who's in your community, who's lending money, what banks are out there, and be intentional about who you maybe start banking with. Like um, who are you opening your checking account with? There's a lot of local credit unions, maybe some local banks too. So build a relationship with them, right? When you have your money there, right, start checking account, get to know the people in the office. We're seeing that some of our local lenders have more options for businesses, like based on their relationship. So if you have your accounts with them, they're willing to extend products to you that maybe you wouldn't be eligible for if you were just walking in off the street. So I would definitely consider that. Also, like, your local lenders, show up to events, meet them, get to know them, let them know who you are and what you're doing. And that's a great way to start building those relationships and letting people know of the good that you're doing. And that will help you later on as you apply for funding. A question popped up about Kiva terms. What's a typical Kiva loan term?
It depends on the amount of funding that you end up getting approved for. But I believe it's a max of 3 years if you get the full amount.
That's great. Some things to keep in mind if you are applying for funding for your business, and maybe before I answer that, last week we did a deep dive into this topic, so broke down all the different options based on where you are in your business life cycle, some different words, some different terms, different types of investments, so you can figure out what's best for your business. So definitely look back at that episode if you would like to know more about this topic. But some things to keep in mind if you are considering funding or you think you might want funding in the future. What you are eligible for and who you are able to apply with really depends on how long you have been in business and how much you're looking for. So, and this is where last week's episode will be really helpful for this topic. But just some overall things to keep in mind, right? Brand new businesses, pre-revenue, it's a lot harder to obtain funding. So going into that, understanding that, as Brandi was saying, you're probably going to have to start with some personal savings. Kiva is a great option because startups are eligible through that product. But you want to be keeping track of your business finances. Anyone who's lending you money is going to want to know how much you're making, how much you're spending, and if you are profitable or not. Your personal situation may come into play. If your business is newer, your personal financial situation may be included in the decision. So this is what we call global underwriting. So we're looking at what other income you have personally and what your personal expenses are to make sure that you can afford all of your payments. Or if the business isn't profitable yet, you're using your personal income to make those payments until you reach profitability. So this is where, kind of back to that initial question, how do I obtain funding without using my personal credit? Depending on how long you've been in business, it might not be possible to obtain funding without your personal credit coming into play, without someone pulling your personal credit report, without you having to sign a personal guarantee. Once your business has enough track record and like assets to support a loan on its own, then that may be a different situation. But especially in the early phases, your personal credit is very often a part of the decision. Regarding personal credit, every lender uses credit a little differently. So something important to keep in mind, some have specific score requirements, some are looking at your actual history. I mean, what payments you have, how have you repaid in the past. Many of us lenders understand that life happens and sometimes things go off track, but the important part is that we get back on track. And so I do think a lot of lenders are looking at your credit to see, okay, if something did happen, if you did get behind, have you gotten caught up? So if you haven't pulled your credit recently, I definitely would recommend doing so. See where things are at. If you do have some payments that are behind or maybe some collections, work on getting those current. That way you can say, hey, this happened in my life, but like we've turned that around going forward. This isn't going to be a problem. What else are you seeing out there, Brandi? Do you have any suggestions for businesses looking for funding?
Another point with building up their credit is getting those balances down. That's going to affect your debt to income ratio, and that's one thing that lenders are looking at because we want to make sure you can afford to take on a loan and make that monthly payment. So if you have high credit card balances, work on paying those down before you apply because that's going to mean that the numbers look better for the underwriting when it comes that time.
That's a really good point. Thank you. Yeah. Trying to think of what else. Let's go back to Kiva for a second here. Kiva is a different type of loan. This is a crowdfunding loan. So we tell our story to the public and they choose to invest in us. We're seeing crowdfunding be a lot more common these days. It can be used in a number of different ways. But traditionally, finance was a little more private. No one knew what we have going on, right? You come to the bank, you apply for a loan, no one knows that you have a loan, you make your payments. Finance was very personal and very private. With crowdfunding, that's changing because we're having to tell the world our story, and that can be a little bit uncomfortable. And so I want to challenge you to think of this a little bit differently. If someone believes in your business, if they support your business, they're going to want to make sure that you continue to stay in business. So publicly sharing your story and saying, hey, support me. I need to buy a new piece of equipment. I want to expand, or I have this really great idea and I want to get off the ground. It can be really uncomfortable telling your story, but there are a lot of people that believe in you, both in your network and in the country and around the globe. And that is the beauty of crowdfunding, is you can have hundreds of thousands of people come together to support your journey. So I encourage you to, if you don't qualify for other types of financing, or you're in the very early stages and you're just not eligible for anything yet, consider crowdfunding as an option for you. And reach out to us, reach out to Kiva, reach out to, there's many platforms doing crowdfunding, but definitely talk it through and see if it makes the most sense for you. I saw another question pop up. Oh, thank you. So the question came through. So Kiva has been around for many years. They've been issuing loans globally. I don't actually know when they started. I'll have to find that out so I can share in the future. But CIC recently became the local Kiva hub. So another local lender, Growth Partners, was the hub previously. We just recently took it over. And so Kiva accepts applications at any time. But we do have applications specifically in our Southern Arizona pipeline right now. So if this is of interest to you, if you want to find out more about the product, definitely reach out and we can have a more one-on-one conversation based on where you are specifically in your business and what you are looking for funding for and what this process could look like for you. Are there any other questions from anyone on the line around this topic of securing business funding without using personal credit? And Brandi, while we give a minute for anyone to chat in any other questions, do you have any thoughts you'd like to share with the group?
Kiva is a great option, and if it is something you're interested in, keep in mind that we do have a member of the CIC team that's going to help you with the process. They're going to help guide you through it and be a support for you as you work through your application and create your story that you're going to be sharing with the community. So don't be afraid. We definitely are here to help you with the process.
Awesome. So Brandy's our rural lending manager. Brandy, I would love for you to comment on resources for rural businesses.
So if you're in rural, Kiva's going to be available to you as well. Kiva's available throughout Arizona. If you're in the southern Arizona region, though, you will be connected with CIC to help you with that application process. But all of the loan products we have at CIC are available in southern Arizona. We kind of serve like Costa Grande across the state and down. But it's figuring out what the right fit is for you. So you don't need to stress about figuring out, oh, I need X, Y, or Z. Your lender is going to work with you, whether that's us or a different lender, to figure out what the right fit is for you.
And so we've talked a lot about Kiva today. We're excited to have Kiva as a part of the CIC lending suite of products, and just for businesses in general, because there is a huge gap in funding for early stage businesses or things along those lines. So this is a really great option. But what in specific communities, how do businesses find out what funding is available for them?
Again, I think it's like you said, showing up to the right events, getting involved with your local chambers, talking with your local banks, creating that relationship, and looking for alternative lenders. There are a lot of lenders in the alternative space. So definitely taking the time to do your research and figuring out what the right fit is for you. Looking at different products, looking at the term lengths, looking at the interest rates, figuring out what your monthly payment is actually going to be to determine what you can afford to take on. That's going to help you figure out what the right fit is too.
Awesome. And are there is a chamber the best place for someone to start within their community? Or are there specific like education centers that maybe they would start with if they're not well connected and they want to start building those relationships?
Your small business development centers are an amazing resource. They are always going to be connected with your local community college. So for Pinal, that's going to be Central Arizona College. That's going to be Kevin Connors. He's an amazing resource and a wealth of knowledge. In Cochise County, that's going to be at the Cochise Community College. They're going to serve the whole county all the way down to Douglas. Excuse me. And then for Graham and Greenlee, that's going to be the Eastern Arizona College. Tori there is amazing at what she does. She's been an entrepreneur, and she's there to help guide people. They are actually in the process of launching their Dream Builder program, which is a free educational resource offered hybrid, personal, in person and virtual, that really helps entrepreneurs that are just starting off and those that are already established but really need help with how to grow and scale.
And then in Tucson, so in both Pima and Santa Cruz County, the Pima Community College hosts the SBDC, and so they are available to support our local community, and they're a great resource as well. Lots of programs for entrepreneurs.
And they're also a great resource to connect you with lenders too. They're aware of who's in the lending space and who might be a right fit for you.
Yeah, that's such a great point. All right, well, any final parting thoughts? All right, I think that is it for us today. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope that this answered your question or gave you a little bit of direction on why your personal credit is included in funding decisions for your business, and also how to look for funding without having to use personal credit cards or personal loans. So feel free to reach out to us directly if you have further questions. And we'll be back next month for another episode of Coffee Chat. If there's a question you'd like us to dive into, please send it over. You can look in the show notes for the link, and we will see you next month. Thank you, Brandi, so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.